Back in 2017, more specifically in September of 2017, I went to the first ever HasCon, the Transformer convention that we lost in BotCon was revived in some shape or form through that of HasCon and Hasbro. And I had a lot of big hopes for this convention. I went with a bunch of my buddies from TFCon and locally here in Montreal. And luckily, like, my crew of friends, they come from different walks of life. Not all of them are big Transformer fans. Some of them are just Star Wars or just Marvel. So we all went with different goals in mind because of all the different properties that Hasbro does. Now, HasCon was what it was. I mean, I had very mixed feelings on it. I mean, there was a lot of free merch and a lot of free stuff that was given out, and I really appreciated that. But at the same time, I felt that it didn't really hit the mark on what I was expecting from, I guess, all my years of TFCon, BotCon, New York Comic Con, Fan Expo, Montreal Comic Con, San Diego Comic Con. It really was a different animal from all of those that I just mentioned. It was almost like a trade show, almost like a celebration of the Hasbro products, but there really wasn't much to buy, so much as there was just to invoke and enjoy and see while you got some free samples of all these different brands, whether it be Beyblade or Star Wars or Transformers or My Little Pony or Magic the Gathering. I mean, if you were a Magic the Gathering fan, you had a great time. I almost felt like that whole weekend was really catered to that. But otherwise, as a whole, it was an interesting show. Had a lot of guests. I mean, Stan Lee was there, Peter Cullen, Stan Bush, Frank Welker, John Warden. I mean, designers, artists, voice actors. Every walk of life was there. And again, I'm just naming really some of the Transformer-related ones. I mean, James Gunn was there, David Ortiz, Mark Rosewater from Magic the Gathering. I mean, every key player in different walks of life through the Magic through the Hasbro brands were there, and it was a very interesting experience. But otherwise, I mean, in the end, I think, and this is what this whole topic really is about that we're discussing, was one of the big goals from almost every single person that went to that show. And it got to a point that even had to bring in the fire marshals because they didn't realize just how important that was to almost everyone who went there, was getting the exclusives. Now, the exclusives, again, were all the different brands. You were scrunched up in lines as the fire marshals were telling you it's impossible. You got to get out of line with a guy just wanting to get something from Deadpool or wanted to get something from Transformers or Star Wars or Magic. And that seemed, I think that was also a big mistake that Hasbro made, was they didn't realize just how important that stuff is to the people that were going to the show. It almost was like the primary goal of most people. So that 2017 year, there was, I mean, and we'll use air quotes here, exclusives, because some of them were exclusive to the show. Some of them were stuff that were just going to be at the show and then later on would be in retail. And some of the stuff was leftovers from San Diego Comic-Con that they just figured, well, I guess we'll just sell them here too. And then they also had like a Hasbro boutique selling retail product of everything. So like that year in 2017, there was that Optimus Prime converter power bank for your cell phone. Didn't sell very well. Meh, it was kind of overpriced. That was exclusive to the show, but then ended up on the Hasbro toy store afterwards. Then you had the Titans Return RC, which was exclusive to the show initially, then started showing up in Toys R Us before Toys R Us closed down in the States. Also started showing up in Canada in Toys R Us. And then, of course, there was a limited number of them that showed up on the Hasbro toy store, online toy store, before Hasbro Pulse became a thing. And even that of the Magic the Gathering 3-pack card, which had the Grimlock card in it. And they also had, again, like I said, the San Diego Comic-Con exclusives of that year. The Optimus Prime, the Skateboard Prime, the Shredicus Maximus, I believe it was called. That Revolution set with the Jetfire and the Matte Tracker and everything. Like, they had a whole bunch of stuff. It was all priced more or less what it cost at San Diego, so it's not like there was big deals. But it was all relatively available there, and nothing really sold out that weekend unless you really waited probably until Sunday. Because, I mean, there was leftovers of everything onto the Hasbro toy store afterwards, so it's no surprise. So this show it finished, we went home. We actually left early because we were kind of like, meh, nothing to do on Sunday. You pretty much got your whole experience after Friday. Um, we went home, and that was that. And then we were going, well, you know, it's not far away. It's actually a short drive from where I live. If they did it again, I'd go again. And well, lo and behold, they did an announcement. They're like, you know what? Judging by how this went, we're going to do this every second year. So I was like, okay, I could see that. Every other year we'll go to this, and that way it doesn't saturate it too much, and that's fine. So they announced a 2019 date, and so it was going to be. And that 2019 date, oddly enough, was going to be next month. It was going to be next month, September, I want to say it was September 8th or September 9th, something like that. And yeah, it was going to be a thing. It was going to have some stuff, and we didn't know. Hopefully they would learn from what they did last show and maybe make it better. And then they canceled it, and they said, you know, it's going to be postponed until further notice. So we just learned recently what was going to be the exclusives had the show happened, because exclusives have to be planned way in advance because they have to go through the factories and make the packaging. And lo and behold, the stuff that we were shown during that San Diego Comic-Con weekend that just passed were supposed to be those exclusives. More specifically, the Refractor Reconnaissance Team pack and the G1 Mini-Cassette 3-pack that has the Dino cassettes of Giraffe, Noizu, and Frenzy. Those two were supposed to be exclusives at HasCon. And that's kind of sad because, like, I mean, if those would have been the exclusives, I think people would have lost their minds. They would have loved these. I mean, I thought the RC was received very well by people, and people were really excited about it. And I mean, the power bank was kind of hit or miss, and the Magic community at least initially really dug that Grimlock card and stuff like that, and the playmat. So I think this would have been really cool. I think it would have been, in a lot of ways, in my just personal opinion, I think it would have been a big upgrade in terms of the characters that were, you know, offered. Because again, the Headmaster RC, yeah, sure, like, you know, that's something that, in my opinion, while it was, you know, it was always this thing in the fandom, like, hey, when are we going to get a Headmaster RC toy? It was nice to finally get one and everything. And having Sue Blue at HasCon also really helped a lot, in the sense that by her being there, you know, you could get it signed, and so it made a nice little connection there. And she had these posters, also these blown up posters of the art. But I mean, this would have been a better little package. You get the 3 little figures, assuming that they would have had the exact same box as it has now. Would have been really nice. You couldn't have obviously gotten the original voice actor of Reflector there, because Chris Latta was the original voice actor and he's passed away. So, but it still would have been really cool to have that. And then to have the mini cassettes, which again, like, those original cassettes are worth big money in the original market. To have those reissue ones with the Frenzy, I mean, I think people would have really dug that a lot. So it's something that, to me, it's kind of a shame that it didn't end up becoming HasCon exclusives. But I mean, now they're available. You could get them through the normal means, if anything else. So it's not a big deal. But at the same time, it's like, hey, you know, you could you can now get it from Big Bad Toy Store, TF Source, or whatever. I'm not plugging them, but I'm just saying, like, you know, all those guys now are going to be available at some shape or form, probably through those guys. So it's not too big a deal, but it just shows what would have been if HasCon would have been in 2019. And we still don't know at this moment what the future is of HasCon. Will there be a 2020 show, 2021? I think that with the weird place that, not like, let's just ignore Transformers for a second. Even though Transformers from a movie standpoint is in a weird place, we don't really know where we're going after the Bumblebee movie. But also, let's say that of their other brands, and that of Star Wars, or in that of the Marvel universe. I think that Hasbro really wants all the stars to align with all the brands that they work with before they probably do the next, you know, big show. And then they'll have an idea, and then they could really market it and get that, you know, premium amount of audience that they could possibly get. But they're kind of in a weird place right now with the show. And I would like for another HasCon to exist. And again, it's a little bit of a bias because, you know, I've worked with them in the past. And then on top of that, you know, it's not that far away from my house. So if they did do another one in Rhode Island, I mean, hey, sure, it'd be silly not to go. You know, it's right there. So it's something, but at the same time, it's like I could understand other people's perspectives. And like if you lived in the West Coast and you don't really, you're only just a Transformer fan, I could see how skipping the show is not a big deal. I mean, just the flight alone, let's say from California to Rhode Island and the hotel, you might as well just sit on eBay and wait for those exclusives to show up and just buy them at a small markup, because it would save you a lot more than the whole trip. And then I'll be honest with you, when you get there, there isn't much there waiting for you. It's not like, TFCon where you get a whole big social experience and then there's all the other stuff and a huge deal room to buy toys and the hangouts afterwards because of the hotel. Rhode Island really wasn't built for any of that. Even the hangouts afterwards, it really wasn't built for that. We were reminded how, and no offense to people at Rhode Island, but how much of a, and I use air quotes here, exciting town Rhode Island really is as a nightlife. So it's something that for me, because it's convenient, I'll go again, but I don't really recommend it for a lot of people, unfortunately. I had a great time, but I have a great group of friends that I hang out with and we make the best of everything. So it's something that I'm really curious in the future when they're going to want to do another one, and if so, how they're going to handle it.